Hello again and welcome to a brand new episode of the Peer Project podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today with today's amazing special guest, okay? It is Saturday, this is going out on Saturday, and tonight is the grand finale of Gladiators. Now, today's guest won't be at the grand finale competing because he left at the semi-finals. I'm talking about Joe Holroyde. Joe, Beardy Joe, Dad Joe, whatever you want to call him. He was one of the best contenders in Gladiators this year. He was the fastest runner-up, which meant that he got to go then and compete in the semi-finals. He is such an inspiration to dads of my age. We're both 41 years old. We'll talk about all that once we get into the podcast, but before we do, I just want to quickly remind you of the Peer Project Supporters Club. It's only £5 a month and you can get yourself some ad-free shows, some exclusive merch when I eventually do merch. I'm working on it this week, just FYI. Plus, and I think this is quite a unique thing that I offer, if I'm doing a celebrity interview via Zoom, anybody who joins the Supporters Club gets to sit in. But most importantly, you'll be helping keep the lights on here at the makeshift Peer Project studio, which is technically just a cupboard at the bottom of my stairs, but that's okay. All the details to the Supporters Club are in the description of this podcast, but I don't want to bore you any longer. Without further ado, here is the Peer Project with Joe Holroyde. So I guess, well, I suppose the first thing is how's life been since being on TV and being on Gladiators?
I mean, honestly, kind of much the same. There's that initial sort of big kick of like social media following that I hadn't really ever thought about. I'm not a huge socials guy, so with my meager few hundred followers, to watch that kick up pretty quickly was was sort of unexpected. I guess I think I probably should have planned more social posts to put out, but that's not really me. I just kind of see what happens on the day and go from there, really.
Did they help you at all, the BBC and that? Did they help you with kind of what to expect afterwards, or was it just a case of, okay, everybody knows who you are now, there's the world?
Yeah, there was some help from that. That obviously talked to us about the likelihood of positive and negative comments. I'm really fortunate in the vast majority of stuff that's come my way has been super positive. And then talk to you about how to sort of lock stuff down and keep it private and display what you want to show, really. But yeah, that sort of blew up for a bit, and so that was nice. But yeah, life kind of just goes back to normal. I'm getting people stop me in the street asking me for selfies, which is still so weird. And every now and again, you'll be sort of walking through the supermarket and there'll be a little kid going, Mum, it's Joe, which is super cute. So I'm really still enjoying, particularly sort of chatting to kids when they're asking about the show and asking about Glads, and because they're really what the show's about. It's a kids' TV show.
No, I'm going to have to.
Based loosely about sport, but
yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you on the kids' TV show part, because I'm with yourself, a 41-year-old, grown man. I love it. I could sit and watch it without my kids. It is that good, and your whole journey actually has been quite amazing, and I think this is one of the reasons why I was so keen to talk to you, is because I do see like a similarity between you and myself. Just unfortunately, I haven't gotten over that kind of fitness hurdle yet. Something that you said very specific on your last episode on Gladiators was, there was a point in your life where you couldn't even make it down the street in terms of your fitness, and now you're a semi-finalist on Gladiators, and that to me is unbelievably inspiring to show that it can still be done, even that, because you were up against the other Joe, who's like, he sweats fitness.
Yeah, Joe's a fit guy, and he's lived it. He's lived it his whole life.
Yeah. So
yeah.
What was the turning point for you? What was the moment where you thought, right, I'm going to need to sort myself out here?
I guess I had spent my 20s running pubs and restaurants and bars and nightclubs, and I'd had a great time. And that sort of industry revolves around late nights, sleeping during the day, plenty of alcohol, and bags of chips when you can stop to sort of shovel something in. Um, and I just hadn't done any exercise. I was the sort of guy who made jokes about people who went to the gym, and like it just wasn't something on my radar. Um, and I had a really good buddy who ran our local half marathon. She ran the Liverpool half. And I went to watch and I went, oh, I could do that. And I tried running and my lungs just wouldn't allow me to do it. Um, I'm a person who's not particularly good at failure. I don't like not being able to do things.
Okay.
But in that same sort of token, failure only happens when you stop trying. So if you, I sort of found that, like I say, I went and I tried this running thing, having never really been in a gym. I'd never really done fitness. I played a little bit of sort of sport as a kid, but not really to any reasonable standard. It just wasn't where I was. And I didn't like the fact that I couldn't do this thing. So I'm quite a goals orientated person. So I went, right, okay, I'm going to book a half marathon. From not being able to run down the street, I went, I'm just going to book it because I'm kind of tight in as much as if I've paid for something, I'm going to go and do it. And if I'm going to do something, I'm going to try and do it to the best of my ability. So in real sort of Forrest Gump fashion, I just went running. And it started with round the block, and then it was down the street, and then it was to the local park, and then it was round our park, and then it was round our park twice before work. And then I was just a running guy. And it took me maybe 3 months of running 3 or 4 days a week to be able to get to a point where I could just about hobble myself around a half marathon. And there's some horrible pictures of me crying with cramp as I'm crossing the finish line on that half marathon. And I did it. And I sort of went, oh, cool. What's next? And I had to sort of start then thinking what came next. And I suppose what came next was I went, right, well, I've done this running thing. What else is there? What else is available? So I joined a sort of Globo gym, sort of high street gym. And I didn't really know what I was doing. And I sort of did some squats and I picked a thing up and put it down and I pushed a machine and I went, this is not fun. This isn't good. And I joined an independent little gym that had a really great community of people who were at all different sort of levels. And that was really the catalyst that pushed me forward into doing anything more than running. And like I say, it's an independent gym, kind of small, and it was just people. And I came into this first class and I was properly sort of rabbit in the headlights. And this one woman came up to me and she went, it's all right, you'll be with me today. And she just took me through this whole thing. And it was literally the hardest thing I'd ever done. And then at the end of this class, everybody was like, yeah, high five. Woo, yeah, great. And I was like, oh, I could get on board with this. I could have a go at this. And I signed up for 2 sessions a week. And then that became 3 sessions a week. And that became 4 sessions a week. And I started to notice the difference in me. So the weight, the number on the scale really didn't ever matter, but it was noticing that I had the ability to do more things. Things that had previously been challenging were becoming easier. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that I was noticing the change, and then I was noticing that I had more energy. And then I was noticing things like, I don't really want to have a beer on a Friday night because I'm doing the early class on a Saturday morning. And it was just those little changes that sort of mounted up over time that really sort of all came together. It wasn't one big thing of, right, I'm going to eat salad and chicken every day for my dinner, and that just happened. It was, I guess, lots of changes that happened over, years.
So there's one thing I want to ask you about. I've got 3 girls of my own, and that's the one thing that that I struggle with is the fact that I know for a fact as soon as I start exercising and the weight will drop off me and I'll start to get fitter and stuff. And exercising does feel good, and it helps with your mental health. But I just cannot get off my backside. I literally cannot. And I want to. I genuinely want to. But so tell me about it. Like in terms of your side, like what you said. There's more things that you can do. Does that? So talk to me about in terms of family life and stuff. What other stuff can you do? Like that sort of side of it.
I guess it's the investment in the future. So,
Mm-hmm.
I make a joke that I want to live forever. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But I'm trying to best protect myself so that I can carry on still being active into my 70s, 80s, and however long I sort of get on this spinning wheel. I guess. I guess if you wrap yourself up in muscles, you become much more difficult to damage as a human body.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of the best protection that you can have is covering yourself in muscles. So I think there's the sort of longevity part of this that I'm looking at, thinking, okay, 40, I've got hopefully plenty of time, but I want to have that sort of level of quality time. I know that without going back to sort of older times, during the lockdown, I spent some time working in a care home because it was the work that I could get. And I looked at some of the people there and thought, this maybe isn't how I want to cash out when the time goes. And if I can be a little fitter now and carry that through, maybe that'll help me when I get to that sort of situation. But in regards to day-to-day life, it's literally things I used to notice that when I was maybe walking to the shop, moving around, I'd find myself quite out of breath. 3 flights of stairs and you'd go, having to stop for a minute there. And actually, should we be sort of struggling moving up a set of stairs? Again, things like a lot of the training I'm doing is quite functional. So it might be picking up weights and walking for 25 meters, 50 meters. It might be lightweight, it might be heavier weight, but can you carry a suitcase? Can you pick up your shopping and walk it from the supermarket to your car? Can you, you've got 2 girls. I've just met them. They're beautiful. But when they were a bit smaller, if something went wrong, could you grab both of those girls, pick them up and move with them?
Got you.
And that was that sort of thing about going, am I physically able to do the things that may happen in life? And I guess the farmer's carry or the weighted carry is just one example of that. But yeah, it's that sort of real functional thing of, can I pick up objects and move them to where I need to put them or where I need to move them to, without having to stop and break, which is, I guess, what a lot of these sort of current fitness regimes are like, whether it's CrossFit or High Rocks, and there's stacks of good stuff out there. But I think that's what they're really pushing at. And I think the big sort of thing in the fitness industry at the moment is functionality. So I think that's kind of important for what you'd be looking at. But if you're looking at yourself about what might work for you, it's kind of trying different things, because the first thing you try, I went into that high street gym and it wasn't for me, and it would have been so easy to go, no, fitness isn't for me, and just stop. But there's so many options out there that maybe people aren't necessarily thinking about, because it doesn't have to be a gym. Like, the weather's beautiful here at the moment, so I don't really want to be in the gym, so I may be out walking the dog. And that couple of hours a day I spend walking the dog might burn the same number of calories that I would have spending 40 minutes in a gym. But today, when it's beautiful sunshine, then maybe I'd rather be doing that. It might not be a gym. It might be jumping on a bike and going and riding your bike somewhere. But there's so many options. There is here local to us, but whether it's rowing or tennis or squash or pickleball, or like, there's 1,000,001 options. There's got to be something there that might just get you going, do you know what? I don't mind getting getting sweaty once or twice a week
Yeah.
for 40 minutes or so, and you might start seeing the difference.
Well, I hope so, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, is because no pressure on you, but I wanted you to inspire me so I could get up off my backside and go. But one thing that I really want to ask you about is your partner. She applied for Gladiators for you, right?
Yes.
Tell me about first of all, the moment you found out that she'd done that, and to your reaction when you realized that you were actually going to be part of the show.
Okay. The story of that night then was we'd gone away on a sort of winter break to our friend's caravan and just sort of having steak dinner and a bottle of wine, which turned into more than one. And anyway, I'm cooking dinner and she starts asking me some ridiculous questions that I can't sort of talk through too specifically because they might still be on the Glad's application
Yeah.
page. But I'm just sort of answering them because we had sort of odd chats about all sorts of stuff anyway. And anyway, next morning I wake up to some emails from the BBC and saying, thanks for your application. And we're like, well, with a bit of a thick head thinking, oh, okay, this will be a funny story. And then through every stage of the casting process, I never really expected to make it to Sheffield Arena. So at each point, it was just like, oh, they want a VT. Haha, this will be a funny story.
Mm-hmm.
Or when we went to some physical trials, it was like, this will be a funny story to tell. And in all honesty, it didn't dawn on me that it was actually going to happen until I was stood in the changing room in Sheffield Arena in red lycra, and there's 4,000 people out there. And that was literally the point that I went, okay, this is going to happen for real. And I guess because I don't want to say that I didn't take it seriously.
Oh.
Because I think each stage I did take seriously, and I was, trying to present the best version of me that I could. But I was never so totally focused on winning anything. I said at the end of my first episode, I was one and done. I was hopefully going to do one show and go out having done all of that stuff. But what I tend not to do is pile pressure on myself to achieve or win or beat anybody else at anything. I guess all of us in this life, we're only up against us. You can only do what you can do. You can only be the best that you can be. And sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. And that's, I guess I said that on the show as well, but that's part of the game of life, is that there are going to be people who are better than you. And there are going to be people who are not as good as you. And you can't necessarily change that. So I went in with no expectations and I went to have a great time. And I think people who watched the show probably noticed I was having a great time from start to finish. But I think that kind of helped me take away some of the pressure of having to deal with stuff. But yeah, I think Leslie putting that application form in at the time, I was maybe thinking, what on earth's going on? But I'm hugely grateful, and none of that show would have happened for me without her putting that in. But again, sort of supporting me through it, because it was quite an intense few weeks, the filming process. Driving from here in the Wirral over to Sheffield and back again, and it was all sort of quite last minute. And then she just sort of managed the day-to-day life of it for me, so I could just really get stuck into mucking about on the telly. So there's a huge amount of organisation for all the people who want tickets that you got to come on, and then sorting their email addresses and dates and times, and then organising the dog and food and all of that sort of stuff. And I literally just got to pitch up and have great fun.
Amazing.
So yeah, I am really grateful to her for that.
So talk to me then, like about the first moment that you walk through into Sheffield Arena, and the lights are there. You can see the wall at the back at your big entrance, and you see it all for the first time. I always liken it so obviously I'm from Scotland, but away up in. Sometimes I go to London, and every single time I go to London, I'm 41 years old, but every single time I go to London, I get mesmerized by it because it's all these things I've seen on the TV and it's real life. It's like, oh my God, I can see Big Ben there, see that with my own eyes. And I liken that maybe to something that maybe you'd felt when you walked into that arena and seen the Gladiator set for the first time and thinking, oh my goodness, this is real. What was that moment like when you walked in for the first time?
Again, so that was incredible. So they filmed the show in sort of sequentially slightly different. So the top of the show where we come out behind the wall, that's not the first thing that gets shot. We actually shot Collision. So the one where we run across the bridge. That was the first thing we shot.
Yeah.
That was the first thing we shot on the first show. Because it takes quite a long time to build it. So we shoot that and then came out and did top of the show. So it was the only event that we didn't get to practice whilst we were doing any training. So in the morning, we'd actually come out and just had a little play on the bridge just to sort of see what it was like. So we've come out of there and we've had a little look in the arena, and that's great. But once it's full of people and there's all the lights and the rigs all out, it's completely different. And again, I just sort of threw myself into it. I waving at crowds, trying to play up to people, and I was just grinning from ear to ear from start to finish. So again, people have said, weren't you nervous? At the time, no. I was literally living my boyhood dreams, so I have nothing to be nervous about. I have no intention of winning anything. I think the other thing is it's such a David and Goliath story. I mean, I am not 5'5" like they build me on the show, but I'm not far off it. And so these gladiators, they're all over 6 foot. And some of them are 6.5. So they're so much bigger than me that I'm not supposed to be beating these men. I'm not supposed to be besting them. And so any points that I was getting was a massive win. So there was no pressure on me in my mind at all. And so I just went out and thought, this is amazing. This is incredible. And I don't think I ever really got past that feeling of complete joy of being allowed to be part of something like that.
And because you can see, in particular, Collision, the one that you mentioned, you are having a blast. I think you did it twice, didn't you? Both times you were there. 3 times. Yeah, you were having a blast every time you did. I don't know, you can tell me, but my impression is that was one of your favourites.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot. So I think it's one that I've actually got, the contenders have actually got a fair chance at scoring some points on. Now there's a moment on the first show where I'm pointing at Legend. I'm like, I know what you're gonna do, and he starts laughing back at me. But I just crack up at that point because they're playing their roles and they're doing their jobs beautifully. And I had in my mind that if I can just get through the cracks and just break that sort of steel face that you've got, then at least I'm getting a little win. And so I did that to him and I saw him giggling and I thought, well, I've got you then. And it was that was a great game to play. But again, these huge men, and I'm just trying to push them out of the way and get across to the other side. But yeah, that was a really, really fun event to play.
Now, in terms of the classic games that we watched growing up, was there any in particular that you were looking forward to doing? Ones that you did do that you really enjoyed, and maybe ones that you hoped to do that you did get the chance to?
Atmospheres. Atmospheres was a game that I didn't get an opportunity to play, which is iconic. And that would have been a lot of fun. But speaking to the guys who played that game, absolutely exhausting. It's, particularly when they changed it to the rat race, where they had to just
the last one,
Yeah, that was just, I spoke to Lewis about it. He said that was 3 minutes of just driving my legs, and that absolutely ruined him for the day.
I think there was something to do with the atmospheres. Maybe now in 2025 it's slightly different because it looked like the floor, because the floor was so shiny, that they were just kind of, they were kind of running on their feet. Whereas I think back in the 90s, it was less of a shiny floor thing, so they had a bit more grip. I'm just guessing. I wasn't there. I was watching the thing on the telly.
Yeah, so it's a concrete floor. So
Mm.
there was definitely some discussion between contenders, at least, about actually if you want to get it moving, it starts slow and then try and build speed. Because if you just go, it just spins and spins and spins, and you're getting nowhere. But yeah, I think that would have been quite a good, fun game to play. Um, I mean, I have to be honest, the wall is not my game.
Right, yeah.
That was something I really struggled with. I've never done any rock climbing. I've never done anything like that. Um, and it seems like everybody else can just run up that thing on all fours. And I don't know whether it was technique or speed or what, but I couldn't get my head around that sort of event. Um,
And then you went away and smashed Legend on Hang Tough.
that was that was a high. That was a high point. Now, doing sort of CrossFit, I've done a bit of sort of gymnastic rings, not a huge amount, but I'm sort of feel pretty strong in the upper body, so I had no real worry about being able to hang on for that time. I don't know whether I could have hung on with a Legend attached to me. But yeah, that was just such an exciting game to play. And then once we got past that point where we'd sort of met and I'd got past him, I knew I had it and I could see where I was going. And on the previous show, another contender had got to the end and just fallen off.
Yes, that's right.
Andy just fell off, which was absolutely heartbreaking for all of us watching. But I had in my mind, just stick it, just stick it, just stick it. But when I finish, the platform was immediately in front of my family, my friends, and everyone that had come with us.
Oh, nice.
So I'm just looking at, and you see me cheer, and I'm looking at my family and my friends and my closest people, and they're all screaming back at me, and I felt so close to them at that point. To have just taken 10 points from Legend on Hang Tough, that was an unbeatable moment. That was really good fun. Yeah.
So tell me then, and obviously I know there's only so much you can tell me. I get that. Being a wrestling fan, I know the kind of the kind of bits between being a good guy, bad guy, and all that sort of stuff. But what I know is, you beat Legend on Hang Tough. Okay, Legend wouldn't have let that lie. But what I want to know is, how did Matt react? Can you tell me anything about how Matt reacted to that?
So I think Matt was frustrated by that. I think
Okay.
because he's gone straight back up to go against Muss,
Oh yeah.
who came straight back at me, or came straight after me. Now I didn't spend a lot of time with the Glads backstage. We don't get a lot of sort of access to them. They wanted to try and keep us quite separately, so it doesn't get too sort of pally, I think. But what I can tell you is when those gladiators come back in backstage out the arena and they've won, they are screaming, they are winning, they want to go out and win. That's what their job is, that's their MO. They are professional athletes, and they didn't get there by giving in an easy win. So when they come back and they have won and taken us down, they've got the same response as when we're coming back into the locker room and we've got points and we're absolutely bouncing. So yeah, they want to win. They're nice about it most of the time, but they want to win.
Any of them that you did meet or get to have any conversations with that stood out as quite nice, quite surprisingly nice, or do you just generally any of them that you got on with pretty well?
Do you know what? They're all really, really lovely people. I mean, me and Bionic had a little sort of to and fro in the first, and again, I think that was me winking at him on the dual platform.
That's right.
And I wish I'd planned some of this stuff, but it was all just me mucking about. And again, I sort of broke that steely glare that he was giving me, and I thought, great. And it didn't last long because he still knocked me off. But But yeah, B was great, and Steele is just the nicest man that you're ever going to meet. But the whole crew, everything about that show, and it really comes across on the telly, I think, is that everybody involved is so hugely positive, whether it's the referees, the casting crew, the camera guys, the techs, the guys who build the stuff that we're playing, and everybody is just having a great time, because how could you not? It's David and Goliath in spandex and flashing lights and fire, and it's just the most fun, and everybody is just having a whale of a time doing it.
And I think that's maybe why the it was kind of unexpected how far you got, because you were just there to have a good time. You could see that in what you were doing as well. Like, you were just generally just having a blast, and every time you got that door to open up to continue even further into the competition, you were like, I can't believe I'm here. I'm just here to have a laugh. What's happening here? Um, when you got the call, I'm assuming it was a call, but when you got the notification that you were the one of the faster runner ups, and you got to go and move on to the next bit, how was that for you? How did you feel? Um, was there any kind of like imposter syndrome, anything like that kind of ate up at you, or were you quite confident in your abilities?
No, absolutely. I had imposter syndrome. I sat there on the first day of the sort of training that we had, the training days, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, there are some incredibly fit men and women here coming as contenders. Do I stack up? Can I sort of compete on a level? And again, my good lady had a word with me and said, put yourself together. You're there because you deserve to be there. Just go and do what you're going to do. I guess when it came to fastest runner-up, I can't beat Mus. So the quarterfinal, I had the guy that I was in the quarterfinals with has made it to the finals this Saturday, BBC One, 10 to 6. Tune in. But he is elite. He is a very, very special athlete, and I'd love to watch him do his thing. So my goal on that quarterfinal eliminator was go as fast as you can and get fastest runner-up. And in my head, if I could make it up the eliminator without a fall, that was giving me my best sort of chance at doing that. And so that was all I had to focus on. And it was, I guess, going back to what I was saying before, I was running my own race. Mus was there as well, but I was running my own race, and it was get up there, get up that eliminator, get up that travelator in one, and go for fastest runner-up, and it worked.
So you're the reason that both those guys are in the final. You've went up against both of them.
I'm not quite sure I can take that. I think they've probably done quite a lot of work, so they might be the reason that they're in the final. Yeah, I will comfortably say that I didn't get to the final of Gladiators because I was beaten twice by the two finalists.
There you go. And that, I mean, you can't get any better than that, really, can you?
And I'm all right with that.
Talk to me about the moment, and I spoke to you about this on the phone when we first spoke. There's a really special moment that happened at the end of the semi-final where the other Joe had already won. He'd been through, he'd broken another record somehow, and you climbed the travelator, it was called, yeah, and you took a beat, and you just took a minute. A couple of questions I want to ask about that is, first of all, what was the intention behind that for you? Was it a planned, I say bit, I don't mean bit, but was it planned for you to do that if you were in that position, or was it spur of the moment? And what was going through your mind as you were there at the top, just having your moment?
I guess going through the quarters knowing I was doing my best to get fastest runner-up, I knew that option wasn't there, and I knew I'd been bested. I knew I'd been beaten. And so I guess the other thing that I'd try to do on each of the episodes that I'd done was have a little bit of fun with the crowd.
Yeah.
And so whether it's what's shown on the show, whether it was what was happening in the arena, like high-fiving the kids on the way around as sort of we're coming out, and and having people sort of chant, and I was playing sort of clapping games with people and just generally being a clown, I suppose. But I got to the end and I stood on that platform and I knew it was done. I knew my time on Gladiators was done. There was going to be no more. And this was my moment to just almost say thank you. It wasn't planned. Nothing I really did was planned at all. I kind of think I might have come across differently if I had really planned or scripted things or thought about what was happening, but that just wasn't me, I suppose. So it was knowing that it was over. It was a thanks to the crowd, I suppose, who had been great, because energy levels go up and down on a day like that. And it was a moment to be present, because there are not many people, I guess, who have stood in an arena of 4,000 people who will cheer for you and will all cheer for you in a moment. And I just wanted to take that in, because I don't know that that will ever happen to me again. And so, yeah, I guess it was about being present and enjoying the moment. And that is a moment I will not forget.
And I think that is important as well, is that you took that moment to remember what was going on. Like, as I've already mentioned, like, you know, I love my professional wrestling, right? I'm a big wrestling fan, and one thing that I always see in the documentaries and the advice that people are always giving and stuff is, the second you walk out of that curtain, whether you're, you know, get 30 people in attendance or you're at WrestleMania in front of 80,000 people, is just stop, take a minute, and breathe it all in, because if you don't, you'll forget. You know, you'll forget what that felt, and that's the impression is what I was getting that you were doing on that time. You were just taking a minute to, I'm going to remember this forever, and then you grabbed the thing and you swung through it, and your legacy's there. Not your legacy, but that's, you know, that's you. Because in my opinion, I think you're probably one of the most unforgettable contenders that there is. You know, certainly one of the most popular. I certainly haven't reached out to any other contenders to talk. It's literally just you. And it's because there's something very likable and very approachable, very real, I guess, about you as well. And I love that. And yeah, and I just want to know, like, because I said to you on the phone the other day as well, that you represent us kind of, you know, bearded dads being out there. Is that important? Was that important to you, to make sure that, you know, like, the even the unfittest of us all could be seen? You know, we can all do it if you can do it. You know, I'm rambling away now, but I know what I mean.
No, that's cool. So I hadn't really thought about, and again, what I said at the end, I hadn't really sort of thought through too much about what the repercussions of things I was saying and things I was doing and who might be, you said the word inspired, but like, I hadn't really considered the knock-on effect. I wasn't the oldest contender, but I was one of them. And there was some interesting comments on the first show on the sort of Instagram feed about, oh, young and old, and it's not fair. And I hadn't really put that into context in my mind, I suppose. But then to have you, and I've had numerous people come through my sort of Instagram and Facebook pages and work business stuff, thinking and saying, how have we done this? What can I do? How can I make the change? And how can I do these little things? And that's been a really sort of interesting experience, to hear that there are so many men in their 40s who have got to a point where they think, actually, I thought it was too late. And if I can help 1, 2, 5, 10 people maybe start moving around a bit more, and then it's a snowball, it's a domino effect. If you start moving around a bit more, you feel better, and the endorphins kick in. They're the best drug that we can have, and it makes you feel good, and you want more of it. And to do that, it's more movement, it's eating less, and it's just doing the stuff. Now, I'm not a PT and I'm not selling programs and I'm not a fitness coach by any stretch, but there's lots of information out there. There's lots out there that can sort of help people. But in regards to sort of representing the older group of guys, I hadn't realized that's what was happening. Again, I just went for a good time.
Does it feel nice though? Does it feel good, or is your imposter syndrome kicking in again a wee bit?
No, I think at this point, I think because of the volume of messages I've had from people who have said things like, right, I want to make a change. It's funny because I took the dog around the block so that he would be quiet while we were doing this. And I got stopped by a guy, and this is going to sound really cheesy, by a guy who used to go to the gym. He used to go to the gym, probably hasn't been in 5 or 6 years. And he said, "You've inspired me to go back." And he's gone back into the gym. And so this is a guy who I've known for 8 or 9 years, and who I had trained with, and he'd just fallen out of it. And now he's getting back into it. So that was a really nice thing to happen this afternoon. But like I say, I've had huge numbers of messages come through of people who want to work out how they make a start.
Is there any long-term plan for Joe H, the public figure, or is Joe learn with what's your driving instructor?
Drive with Joe.
Yeah, drive with Joe, or is that you? Are you just back behind the wheel and you're back to being a driving instructor again?
Well, again, I hadn't really got any plans for doing anything. I thought if something came along and something came out of this, then that would be sort of wonderful. But I don't know. I mean, maybe if something was to come of it, then great. I will. I said to casting, I said, if as long as you keep ringing me and asking me to come, I'll keep turning up. So if Glad's ever wanted me to come back and do anything at all in regards to the show, there's no way I'm going to say no to them. And I'd love to, whether it was something with season 3, if fingers crossed that's going to happen, whether I could go back and be a part of something there, whether there was anything else, who knows? But for now, it's very much back to getting out the car, getting some people through their driving test, and enjoying training. Just enjoying my training and being active, and hopefully having a great summer to do it.
Now, my goal is to get this out before Saturday.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask, because you have a very close relationship with both the guys in the final now, because you opened the door for them to get to the final. I'll say, you don't need to say it, I'll say it, right? Who are you backing?
You have got 2 incredibly fit guys there, both with very different skill sets. The one thing that they both have is a winning mentality, and they are absolutely rapid. You've got 2 guys here who have already broken the eliminator record. So we know that they're going to be fast. This Saturday's male final is going to come down to absolute fine margins. And I can't call it. They are both so beautiful, so humble. I've been texting Joe this week actually, and it's such fine margins that they're going to put on a great show, whatever happens.
And that's a wrap for Joe Holroyde on the Peer Project. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us. It was a brilliant chat, and I'm so grateful for you to take the time to talk to me. I do have some other cracking guests lined up. It's all coming up in the next few weeks on the Peer Project. Thank you again for joining me, and thank you to all my supporters. If you want to join a supporters club, all the details are in the podcast description. So until next time, thank you very much for joining us, and just keep being you.